This is Joy Foote. Welcome to Pine Mountain, then and now. I have a special treat for you today. I invited Bob Swanson to the podcast to share a hilarious story about some shenanigans that happened in his store. Bob and his wife Dawn own an antique store, the Emporium on Main in Pine Mountain. So welcome, Bob. You're my first interview on Pine Mountain, then and now. You want to take a second and just introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Bob Swanson, and I was a 30-year Army veteran, retired April Fool's Day 2020. And my wife, Dawn, and I own the Emporium on Main now. It has been around for over 20 years, but we gave it a major facelift, and Pine Mountain has never been listed in Southern Living as one of the antique destinations in Georgia until this year. And in August, they had Pine Mountain as an antique destination for Georgia, coming in at number 9. And the Emporium was the only shop that got its own little glowing review. So we're pretty excited about that.
Well, Congratulations. I love your store, and I love Pine Mountain so much. And I really, really appreciate you joining me today on my first ever interview. And I want to also just let the listeners know the reason I'm doing this today is because I have shopped in your store, and I've talked to you and Dawn many times as I've gone in the store. And I remember one time just going in the store with a group of friends, and we were looking at some photos that were sitting on the display.
Right.
And I had said to them, like, you know, these are great, but like, who would buy them? And you overheard me say that. And then you told me this fantastic story. And I just would love for you to share that with the listeners today.
I'd be happy to do that, actually. Most of the time people come in, they look at the old photographs. Now, there's older carte de visites and some of those super old photos, but photography really took a major boom in popularity, in the very late 1800s after the Civil War. And so there's a lot of these old photos, and you do look at them, and they're family photos or, young couples or entire families. And you can't help but wonder who these people were and how they happened to end up in an antique store. But we do have a large selection of them. We like to keep them there. Most of the time people will buy them because it reminds them of somebody, or, they collect. There are people who collect them, but the most unusual case I've ever had of someone shopping for the old photos was a lady came in one morning. I just opened the shop. She was very well groomed. She appeared to be in her 80s. She had her nails done, her makeup on, and her hair was freshly done, and had a nice outfit on. And she came in. You can always tell when somebody comes in on a mission. They have that walk and that look about them. She said, "Are you Bob?" I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "I've had people tell me you have a lot of old photographs." "Yes, ma'am, I do." "Will you show them to me?" "Well, certainly." So we walked to the back of the shop, and she said, "Perfect. Okay, good." She said, "I've got a list." And I said, "Okay." "I've got a list. I need you to help me." And I said, "Sure." There wasn't anybody else in the store. So we started getting out the photos, and she said, "Put them over there." She was a delightfully forceful person. So she was giving me instructions, and I was following them. I've been in the Army 30 years. I can give and take direction. So we started spreading photos out on the jewelry counter, as she had said she wanted me to do. And she said, "Okay, here's what we're looking for." And she said, "We need a couple that," she had this long list, and it was like, "I need a couple that looks like they might be farm people with one good outfit, and They should be in their, older people. And I look at this list, and it's a young couple, two children, and so forth and so on. And I said, "What are we doing exactly?" She said, "Honey," and it was Drippy Magnolia Southern, "Honey, I have been looking for my photographs of my family for God knows how long, and my grandchildren will not leave me alone about finding these pictures." And it was the only bit of profanity she used at all. She goes, "And I don't know where the hell they are." And I said, "Okay." She says, "We." She said, "I'm just gonna." I said, "You're gonna make a family?" "Yes." So we spent the next probably hour going through all these pictures, and it started kind of like when somebody's, comes by and they see you working on a jigsaw puzzle, and then they help a little bit, and then so here's this piece. So we found almost her entire family for her. I picked one picture out and I said, this one was a little more challenging. It needs to be an older man with a young wife and three children. And so I said, "Oh, here we go. I found one." And she goes, "Oh, God, no, not them. They're ugly." She said, "If we're going to make this up, we want them to be pretty people." So we had the best time coming up with our family. And then she looked at one picture. She said, I said, "This is perfect, but it's, a lot of times they'll have the photographer name and the old scripty style, and it was
Mhm.
Chicago." And I said, "Well, this says Chicago or whatever." And she says, "Well, honey, you got some scissors. Can't you cut that off?" So we cut it off. And then I'm checking her out, and you don't want to talk about mortality or anything, but I
Mhm.
said, "I know a gentleman shouldn't ask, but may I ask your age?" And I think she said 84 or something, 85, something like that. Yeah. I said, "May I ask you a question?" "Sure." Um, when you pass one day, they're gonna find the actual photos. Honey, I'll be dead. What I care. So anyway,
So
that was the yeah, that was
that was
we'd only been
that is hilarious.
it was that was the best fun
Hilarious.
I'd ever had looking through those old pictures for somebody. But she walked
I
out with a whole family history.
small town charm. Like these stories, you just aren't going to really hear them anywhere else. It's
I
just hilarious.
Yeah.
And then I imagine, the kids very confused. They're going through the attic. They find these photos and then they're going to spend tons of time maybe trying to do a reconciliation. Who knows, or donate them to the local museum. And then they have the wrong one for the person. You know what I mean?
I, yeah.
How long ago did this happen?
I guess this has been about 4 years ago now. Yeah. Something like that.
Did she say she lived in town or did she say where she came from or anything? Or,
She said she'd come down from Noonan. So
okay.
and I don't know that I've ever seen her again. I'm sure I would remember her.
I'm sure you would.
Yeah.
What I find hilarious is the people walking by and are watching this and they want to help a little bit. We'll try this one.
I did have one lady that wanted to kind of join in, but again, it was kind of like that puzzle, when somebody's helping me with the jigsaw puzzle. She was
Mhm.
perfectly happy with my help. She told the lady she was
Mm.
basically, "Go on, we got this."
uh, I liked her assertiveness too.
Yeah,
She came in with a purpose. She was
she
dressed
did.
up, she was prepared this whole day. And if she drove from Noonan, she had it
Hmm.
planned out. And you
Oh,
did
she
not
did.
know you were going to be part of the scheme when she walked in
Nope.
the door.
Nope, not at all, not at all.
That's
But she
hilarious.
had her little list with her dates and
Mhm.
and the ages of the people and the names and stuff. So I imagine she went home, started putting all the bogus information.
I love
With
that so much.
It's
Well,
honey, I've been looking for these pictures forever, and I don't know where the hell they are.
well, now she's found them. Save the date. The Pine Mountain Parade and Festival will be on December 7th. There are a ton of fun changes this year, including a longer parade route, a chili cook-off, lots of corvettes, and even a Falcon RV flyover. So save the date, and I will include more information in future episodes. Special thanks to Bob Swanson for sharing the hilarious story from Emporium on Maine. The beautiful art and music for the show was created by Silly Bug Studios. The next episode is on Wednesday, November 27th. Hope to see you around town.